After the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Detroit Lions 31-29, Jacob, I can't help but think of one thing. After the Vikings win, they always show Kevin O'Connell giving Gabe balls to Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Will Reichard, Stephon Gilmore for the pick against Aaron Rodgers. I would love to see the locker room speech after a loss against a team like the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love his cadence when he does them, too, because he's like, this man is a dear friend of ours. He's been a leader in the locker room for the last 3 weeks. You know, stand the trainer for getting us donuts, everybody. Stand! And then they all, oh, yeah!
Let's go! Yeah!
But he has that kind of that elevated tone with everything he says. Yeah, the build up. Yeah. But yeah, does he give it to like Jared Goff or something on a loss? Like, none of you guys deserve this. He's been a rival of ours for the last 3 years. He's kind of kicked our butt because I don't think we've really beat him.
He did. He went 14 for 14 without a missed pass.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Did we beat the Lions last year? When's the last time we beat the Lions in general?
That's a good question.
I feel like they've had our number the last 2 or 3 years. I think we beat them like once in that stretch, but
yeah, probably 2 years ago we beat him with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
but I don't think we beat him last year.
No, I don't think so either. Because the second one was a blowout. I know that.
Yeah. End of the season.
The home game we got like annihilated. I think it was the home game. But
end of the season we got crushed.
That's the one. Yeah.
But here's the takeaway that I have to share after thinking about the game and crunching on a little bit. We already did one, but we haven't shared this thought yet. Though one of the biggest questions that people were looking for answers on, which I think was answered in this game, was the Minnesota Vikings' ability to play from behind. The question that has had to be answered was, okay, Sam Darnold can play with the lead. The Minnesota Vikings defense can play with the lead. But at some point in the regular season, you are going to have to come from behind. And despite the Vikings' 10-0 lead, they were down 21-10. And when they needed to put drives together, Darnold found Justin Jefferson. Darnold found Jordan Addison deep. Will Reichard kicked in some field goals. And then they had the beneficial play from the Vikings defense with Metellus and Ivan Pace Jr. scoring a touchdown. But I believe that this game proved that Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense and the Vikings defense can play from behind and catch up, which is an important thing in this league because you're not going to dominate every single game.
Yeah, especially because like our offense is so run heavy and play action heavy, which obviously are two things that work less when you're losing, of course. So the fact that they were able to stick to their game plan, run their offense, hit some big plays, all those sort of things. You're right that Sam Darnold, because at 21-10, I mean, that's teetering on the side of if you don't come out, because I think did we score on our first drive of the third quarter? I think
yes, we did. Justin Jefferson touchdown first play, first drive.
First drive. Because if we don't score on that first drive, if Darnold does not respond, that could be all of a sudden you're looking at a blowout on our hands potentially, right? So, no, they did what they answered the call. They did what they needed to do. They responded. The defense, too. It's a lot harder to, mix up your pressures and do all this stuff when the other team is winning, too. You have to be more aggressive, but then your back-end coverage is going to be a little weaker and all that sort of stuff. So, no, that the fact that they were able to still generate pressure and force, turnovers and force 3 and outs at the end of the game or, close to the end, and then the very end, obviously, they faltered. But you're right, though. They did what they needed to do to be back into the game, which very well could have went the other way.
We got a short glimpse, an unrealistic glimpse, when the referees let the Jalen Naylor fumble play on, and it was 28-10, even though he clearly stepped out of bounds. And even though he clearly stepped out of bounds, I still couldn't help but think, wow, 28-10, this game is over. And a quick 3 and out. Detroit knows how important that drive is, but by the Vikings, a quick 3 and out, or a first down and then a punt, and the Detroit Lions score another touchdown because they scored 4 straight touchdowns in that game, and between the second and third quarters, then we're looking at potentially ball game over. So the fact that the Vikings were able to score when they needed to score, kicked field goals when they needed to kick field goals, they got the lead 29-28, but just couldn't finish the game.
Yep. And yeah, having Reichert too, right? If none, he's perfect in his NFL career so far as still. So having a legit kicker, he's good from 40, he's good from 50, he's good on extra points. Like that was huge too. This was another big game and big moments. Those are big field goals that he hit to get us back in the game. So yeah, it's been refreshing.
Right. So Vikings lose 31-29. Jared Goff 22 for 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 140 passer rating. Jamhr Gibbs 15 carries, 116 yards. Had a long 45-yard run on the Vikings defense, which has to go against the Rams next week, which will be an interesting game. Who knows who will be all healthy for the Rams with Cooper Kupp being sidelined and Puka Nacua being sidelined, but they still got Stafford, they still got McVay, they still got some talented offensive pieces. Amon St. Brown, 8 receptions, 112 yards. I look at those stats, and just reading the Lions stats, I'm thinking, wow, Vikings got clobbered. Jared Goff, 140 passer rating. Jamhr Gibbs, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Goff, 2 touchdowns. Amon St. Brown, 112 yards. I'm thinking, wow, this game must have been 35-7, but the Vikings were competitive.
Yeah, they held their own, and yeah, Goff looked great yet again. Not something, again, 4 years ago any of us would have thought would have been the case, that Goff would still be looking this great. Gibbs is a problem. It's always, I know Monty was hurt for a little bit before he came back towards the end, but the fact that they don't give Gibbs like 20 to 25 touches between receptions and runs is always beyond me. He's so explosive and impossible to tackle. And Goff is sprinkling it around a little bit, and there's a reason the Lions are the second favorite in the NFC. They're legit.
Right. Are the Niners the favorite? Who's the second favorite? Who's the first favorite?
I think the 49ers are still the favorite, even though they're 3-3. And who knows with this Chiefs game, it could end up being 3-4 by the end of the day. But I think they were still the betting favorite.
Sure, that makes sense.
Especially because their division
McCaffrey gets back,
they're going to win their division.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, especially if McCaffrey comes back.
Right.
Eventually, and it seems like signs are pointing towards that. So.
Yeah.
Quick reaction from Jacob and I following Vikings 31-29 loss to the Lions, but good things answered in this game, and we thank you to the Cat and to Jacob for your participation in this podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you, Fran.